Good evening, everyone. Tonight's Stations of the Cross is a contemporary version, and so there is full participation by everybody in this room, and we would appreciate that. So if you will please stand, we will begin. And just a program note, after the 11th station, we will be seated for a sung meditation, okay? These 14 steps that you are now about to walk, you do not take alone. I walk with you. Though you are you and I am I, yet we are truly one Christ. And therefore, my way of the cross 2,000 years ago and your way now are also one. But note this difference. My life was incomplete until I crowned it by my death. Your 14 steps will only be complete when you have crowned them by your life. Jesus is condemned. We adore you, O Christ, and we praise you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world.
Pilate found no fault with Jesus, but when the crowd grew loud, he grew silent. I wash my hands. You deal with it. Pilate had the knowledge and the power to stand and say no to the world as it sought to crush the Lord of life, but he chose not to act on his knowledge nor to use his power.
How many times do I have the power and the knowledge to say no? yet stay silent. When I see injustice, hear an insult, witness bullying, do I think, it's not my problem, and walk away? How many times do I participate by my silence in the passion of Jesus? Who will be hurt because I do not say no? Dear Jesus, you hear my silence and you still love me, because you say no to the evil and violence of the world. The world says no to you. Give me the courage to stand and say no with you. Help me to take up my cross and follow you.
Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom.
Jesus takes up his cross. We adore you, O Christ, and we praise you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world.
This cross has now been thousands of years in the making. Its weight still grows greater each time I look for someone to blame for the pain in my world. Each time I insist that sin must be punished, I add an ounce to the burden Jesus carries for me. This is the cross Jesus carries. It is the cross of blame and of vengeance.
When have I said, well, he certainly deserved that, or she had that coming to her? When have I failed to forgive as I have been forgiven? When have I laid more weight on Jesus' cross? Dear Jesus, each step you take today is made harder by the hardness of heart. You carry this weight so that no one else ever will, not even me. Please give me the desire and the strength to forgive, to lighten your cross.
Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom.
Jesus falls. We adore you, O Christ, and we praise you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world.
Jesus, they watched you fall and nervously laughed together. The laughter transformed them from individuals to a collective and gave them a sense of belonging. Their laughter reduced you to a joke, to something less than a man. They became a mob and relinquished their individual sense of right and wrong.
How many times, Lord, have I sacrificed my values as I joined the crowd to take satisfaction and pleasure in the fall of another? How many acts of unkindness or violence have been supported by my laughter? Dear Jesus, lying there on the ground, you feel my laughter, our laughter, as a slap in the face. In your ignorance, you cause me to question my desire to laugh at anyone else. Give me the courage to stop laughing at the pain of others, to see human persons beneath the jokes we have made of them.
Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom.
Jesus meets his mother. We adore you, O Christ, and we praise you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world.
Jesus, they wanted to make you an object of laughter to isolate you completely, but your mother's loving presence got in the way. She withstood the blows of taunt and sorrow to be present for you along the way. She alone remained to give you courage, to remind us that you are someone's child, just like we are.
How many times, Lord, have I watched another suffer, but from a safe distance? How many times have you looked out at me through the eyes of another for comfort, but were unable to find it? Dear Jesus, your mother stood with you to give you strength and hold up your humanity in the face of my indifference. Help me to see the humanity of those whom the world wants to erase, and give me courage to stand with them, to strengthen them, and to claim them as brother or sister.
Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom.
Simon helps Jesus. We adore you, O Christ, and we praise you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world.
They needed you to die, Jesus, but their rage had gone too far. You were beaten so severely, not able to go on, so they looked for a solution that wouldn't involve them too closely or have them touch the cross themselves. The answer: find a stranger who had no idea who you were to carry the cross. Simon knew nothing of your innocence.
How many times have I called on others to do my violence for me, to deliver a hateful note, to spread a rumor, to damage property, to cause pain? When have I ignored those around me who are taunted, downtrodden, in need? Dear Jesus, Simon knew nothing of the reason for your execution, but in experiencing your courage and love, he became your friend and a witness for us. Help me to see my own reluctance to act for what it is, a sign that something very wrong is happening. Give me the courage to step forward and say, enough.
Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom.
Veronica helps Jesus. We adore you, O Christ, and we praise you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world.
Jesus, you had been beaten so badly that you were marred beyond human semblance. As you walked along, you were almost unrecognizable. It was so much easier to hate you, to jeer you, to wish you dead when they couldn't see your face. Veronica would not permit that luxury. She stepped forward and wiped away the blood and sweat, revealing your human face to all the onlookers.
How many times have I missed your humanity, Jesus? How many times has it been easier to deal with your suffering because your face is marred beyond recognition? Do I have it in me to see your face clearly when I look into the eyes of another person? Dear Jesus, your suffering is the suffering of one who is truly human, and it is the suffering I often try to avoid seeing. I want to make your suffering something divine, or something less than human. I don't want to connect too closely to you. Help me to see what Veronica reveals. Help me to see clearly the suffering around me, and to see clearly your humanity there.
Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus,
Jesus falls again. We adore you, O Christ, and we praise you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world.
The first time you fell, Jesus, the onlookers laughed. Your fall made their hatred well up even more powerfully. Even though Simon was forced to help you, you fell again and showed weakness. So the mob screamed all the louder, "Get up! Get up!" desperate to find an outlet for their rage. They recognized that life was not the way they wanted it to be, and someone had to be blamed, and so they taunted you. "Get up, Jesus! Hurry up!"
How many times have I added my voice to the mob? How many times have I kicked someone when he or she is down? How many times have I picked on someone in order to fit in with the crowd? It's not just easier to attack someone who is weakened. I sometimes sense that it is necessary in order to prove that they are different, disappointing, and worthy of my disdain and even hatred. Jesus, what wondrous love you have shown me. You fell to earth so that I might rise. You endured hatred so that I might be freed of it. Open my eyes to recognize when I need to find someone to blame and even hate when things are not going the way I want. Help me remember that you were willing to be hated for my sake.
Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom.
Jesus consoles the women. We adore you, O Christ, and we praise you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world.
Jesus, you told them, "Weep not for me, but for yourselves and for your children." The women of Jerusalem, standing at a distance, wanted to weep for you as though your fate were unrelated to theirs, as though the violence you suffered did not affect them as well. You turned their sympathy back onto them to remind them that your fate was their fate too.
How many times have I contemplated your passion, Lord, feeling sad, even to the point of tears? How many times have I wanted to weep because of your pain, without recognizing that humanity caused it? How often, Lord, have I blinded myself to my complicity in violence and kept my distance by feeling sorry for the victims without actually doing anything for them? Dear Jesus, I don't just want to feel sorry for victims of violence, I want to acknowledge my part in their suffering. I know that you love me too much to leave me wallowing in pity. Open my eyes to the ways I benefit from the suffering of others, so that I might weep for myself, my family, and those who will come after me, and ultimately work to eliminate violence from my life.
Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom.
The third fall. We adore you, O Christ, and we praise you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world.
Jesus, you did all you could do. You were utterly beaten, defeated, with not an ounce of strength left. So the remainder of what was to happen was left to the mob. They were not finished watching, taunting, hating. Like the potter's clay, they fashioned you into what they needed you to be.
How many times have I seen another's weakness as an opportunity to shape them, to change them into what I need them to be? How many times do I blame the weak or downtrodden for their condition? To justify my disdain, I find it easy to say, he's homeless because he's lazy, she has no friends because she's quiet. How many times do I nail Jesus to the cross? Dear Jesus, I continue to assign blame and guilt in order to justify continued persecution. When I do that to another person, I do that to you. Jesus, teach me the real meaning of mercy. Deliver me from the need for a guilty victim, lest I make one.
Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom.
Jesus is stripped. We adore you, O Christ.
And we praise you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world.
Physical humiliation wasn't enough. Spitting wasn't enough. Whipping wasn't enough. Crucifixion wasn't enough. The mob needed to shame Jesus, to strip away from him any shred of human dignity. They were blind to the dignity in which his heavenly Father, our heavenly Father, clothed Jesus. Unable to see his deeper dignity, they took sadistic pleasure in the shame they poured out on him.
How many times have I branded someone negatively? Nerd, lazy, drunk, homeless, weakling? How many times have I labeled my brother or sister using shame so as to let them apart and reduce them to nothing? Dear Jesus, as you stood there, stripped before the crowd, you were even more dignified than anyone present. Help me to see the dignity that you have, that every child of God, every person has, a dignity that nobody, including me, can ever take away.
Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom.
Jesus is crucified. We adore you, O Christ, and we praise you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world.
Hanging on the cross was not cruel enough, Jesus. Watching you suffocate would not satisfy the rage of the mob. So instead of using the traditional ropes, they needed to use nails to cut through your human flesh to help the rage bleed away.
How many times have I allowed my anger to turn unchecked into rage? How many times have I allowed my rage to drive me to cruelty, cruel acts, cruel speech? How many times has another person borne the scars of my rage? Dear Jesus, I cannot, by my own strength, free myself from the pain of frustration that sometimes becomes fury. But I know that you are able to. Free me. Help me choose not to act out of anger and rage, lest someone be made to suffer because of my pain.
Please be seated.
Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Oh, sometimes it causes me tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Were you there when they pierced him in the side? Were you there when they pierced him in the side? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they pierced him in the side? Were you there when they laid him in the tomb? Were you there when they laid him in the tomb? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they laid him in the tomb?
Please stand as you're able. Jesus dies. We adore you, O Christ, and we praise you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world.
The mob stood in stunned silence as they surveyed the result of their sin. The Lord of life, Jesus, hung dead on the cross. The peace they pursued as they chased him up the hill refused to come. As they gazed upon Jesus, their victim, the realization dawned. Violence would never bring peace. They were terrified and alone, even as they stood with one another.
I am horrified. The foundation beneath my feet seems to crumble as I contemplate a world without violence. How can I talk to others without blame, without gossip, without slander, without insult? How can I laugh without putting down? How can I build without destroying? How can I use without abusing? What will be my foundation for relationships with others and with the world? Dear Jesus, keep my eyes fastened on you, remembering your lifeless figure on the cross, not only today, but every day. Remind me of the cost of my old ways of relating to others. Invite me into silence so that you might speak love in me and through me.
Jesus, remember me when you come
Jesus is taken down. We adore you, O Christ, and we praise you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world.
Once the spectacle ended, the mob felt compelled to leave. There had been something both horrible and fascinating about Jesus as he hung there, and it was frightening to them. The task of dealing with his lifeless body, of touching Jesus, was left to those who were already unclean. So the mob had all departed by the time the guards permitted those who loved Jesus to bring him down from the cross.
How often, Lord, have I fled my own horror? How often have I left the wounded in body or spirit in the care of others? How often have I walked away from those in pain because of my own fear? How often have I hidden from my own fear of pain, of dying, of death, afraid of what I might discover about others or myself? Dear Jesus, your mother and your friends cared for your dead body, unafraid to touch you because of their love for you. Help me see that my own fear of closeness is misguided. Cleanse me by opening me up to being loving and caring in all my relationships.
Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom.
Jesus is buried.
Those who did not abandon Jesus, those who refused to join the mob, laid his body to rest with great tenderness into the empty tomb donated by a rich man. At that moment, they saw nothing divine in the torn flesh, nothing holy in the bloodied brow. They knew only sorrow, deeper than the greatest trenches of the ocean, deep sorrow.
Jesus, I know you'll breathe life again into my deadened spirit, but at this moment I am deeply saddened. I have a sense of hopelessness about my own complicity in the violence against others that is pervasive in the world, the same violence that led to your death. It is as if I am in the tomb with you. Dear Jesus, I have seen myself as I truly am, reflected in the eyes of those I laugh at, abuse, hurt. Their eyes, I now know, are your eyes. I wait now for your redemption. I am hungry now for a life that doesn't need the blood of victims to sustain itself. Keep this hunger alive in me. Help me never again to be satisfied with the status quo.
Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom.
I told you at the start, my other self, my life was not complete until I crowned it by my death. Your way is not complete unless you crown it by your life. Accept each moment as it comes to you with faith and trust that with all that happens, I am with you. A simple fiat, that is all it takes, a breathing in your heart with God's help. So seek me not in far-off places. I am close at hand, your workbench, office, kitchen. These are altars where you offer love, and I am with you there. Go now, take up your cross, and with your life, complete your way.